James Max took one 30 minutes ago that James was supposed to, so maybe they switched.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody sent me a message.
Okay.
Who was it now? Yeah, it was James that sent me the message saying he was going to be the person, but maybe they switched up.
Okay.
Well, either way, nobody's here.
Right. And I'm giving you back host.
Okay.
But I'll stay in until one of those guys comes in.
Sure.
There you go.
So you guys live stream about 3 classes at a time?
We can do a couple. I've only seen 2 at a time at the most. So.
Oh, okay.
But it depends on the channel. We can definitely do more than that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So since James is here, I'm going to head out.
All right. Thanks.
You guys have a great class, and you'll just make him co-host, correct?
I did already. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi, James.
Karina, how are you?
Pretty good.
Sorry, I have another class. That's why I'm late.
Oh, that's okay. You were there late. Yeah. Sometimes our classes go. I'm trying to keep my class right to the time. So, I get asked questions, lots of nutrition and like health questions. And so I like to answer everybody's question if I can.
It's like that.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start the recording exact 9 o'clock, or we do need to wait for 2 to 3 minutes?
Yeah, I can start right now.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class. Come on in. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Ingrid.
Hello.
Hi, Michael. Good to have everybody here this morning. Well, it's morning for me. I always say morning, but I figured 9, 10, it's probably maybe noon at some places.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of you guys are right at lunchtime. That is cool. Welcome, everyone. Come on into class. Get yourself all settled and get your water. I have my water glass with me here. Or if you're having your breakfast or your snack or you have got your lunch, no problem at all. Hey, it's a nutrition class. It's okay to eat. Maybe not bring out the bag of chips. That's my weakness, but it's a little early for me to be eating chips right now, actually. So let us, as we are all coming in, I want to just mention that we have James in, James is in our support. I'm getting a lot of noise. Let me just see here where the noise is coming from. All right, so just so we can all hear each other, because sometimes when somebody has like background noise in there, it doesn't bother them, but other people, it affects their sound. All right, so James is our support person. He's in the chat. So you got him there if you have any questions or you're having some troubles with your Zoom. And let me share my screen. Still have a minute or so, but people always can just join in with us as we get started. So, because I've got lots of stuff I want to talk about today, and I like to have enough time to answer any questions you might have. All right, one thing that I forgot to do, sorry, let me just stop sharing for 1 second. I just want to open my chat box. I've sort of figured out that is the way to do it, is if I open my chat box first and then share the screen, then I have a better chance of seeing if you've written anything in there. The other thing that I like, now you've probably taken my class. I know Margaret, I've seen Margaret here many times, or maybe not this specific class, but I think there's a lot of us that actually take a class a couple times because if you've missed anything or you want to hear it again or you just want it to sink in a little bit more, that's totally fine. That's great. I love to see people hear a second time. The reactions button down the bottom is something I really like. It really actually helps me when I'm teaching, because if somebody wants to make a statement about something that I've just said, like they can do the thumbs up, that's a quick one, or they want to say something, then they can put their hand up, electronic hand, or your hand, I can see that too. And then it's great because it's sort of part of the conversation. It sort of makes us feel like we're here together in person and that we're having conversations and like having like a little mastermind group and we're talking together. I think that's really important because I have learned so much from all of you. So it's nutrition basics today. That's what we're going to talk about. It's quite an interesting little class because I talk a lot about what things happen as we age, like what sort of things are kind of naturally happening to do with our nutrition as we get older. And I want to know that because if I have that awareness, then I know that maybe I'm not sick. Maybe there's nothing wrong with me. Maybe this is just sort of a natural thing that happens. Maybe a certain hormone changes or you know, you'll find out as we go through the class, there are some changes and that's okay. So I'm Ravina. I'm one of the guides here. I believe I've probably met most of you. I see Pat's here. That's lovely. And Elizabeth, I recognize, and Myrna. So if you don't know who I am, I'm actually one of the two guides. I believe there's two of us from Canada. Yay. So we're north of you, I guess. And I'm about 2 hours away from Seattle. I'm in Victoria, BC, which is the island. Beautiful here, sunny today. We have very mild weather, so everybody likes to come to Victoria. We get a tiny bit of snow, maybe, but I don't even think we had snow. We had snow one day this winter. So my whole gig here is I just like nutrition. I like lifestyle. I like prevention. I'm all about prevention. If I can stop myself from even getting diabetes or getting an eye disease or whatever it is, there you go. I rather not get it at all and see what it's like in the hospital. Don't want to do that. And as I mentioned, we learn from each other. So feel free and don't be shy. We're all here. We're all here to learn. So if you have something to share, share it. We want to hear from you. And if I'm running out of time, I'll just let you know that we have to keep the comments down short because I want to get through a bunch of stuff, a bunch of information. But again, we're here to learn from each other. So, and we're making friends, are we not? We're seeing some familiar faces in each class. I love that. It's like we've got our get set up friends now, which is really neat. We are live streaming today. So for any of you who haven't tried the little icon, the TV icon down in the bottom left-hand corner on the website, you can click on that and actually go into somebody's class that they're live streaming at that moment and just check it out and see if you like it. They can't see you, but you can see them. And then lastly, we don't get paid for anything that we might talk about, like a service or a grocery store or what else do I talk about? Products. Sometimes I talk about products. So just so you're aware of that. So today, nutrition, how does it change as we age? What are the 4 factors that affect nutrition in our older years? And then also I'm going to teach you just a few little tiny nutrition basics. So for any of you that have taken any of my other classes, the things that are really, really important when it comes to health and wellness, you'll see an overlap in different classes. I might come at it at a different angle, but really there's a new class coming. It hasn't been put on the schedule yet about the different food lifestyles. Are you vegan? Do you follow a paleo diet? Have you heard of keto and you're not really sure what that is? I talk some basic nutrition in that class as well, because what I teach you is the dietary, the premise of all dietary lifestyles, because there is a foundation to all ways of eating, including, say, the Mediterranean diet. And then I'm going to talk about 3 nutrients at the end that I really just want us to be focused on, especially in our older years, because those are the ones we kind of forget about. All right. So I want to just ask a quick question, and you can just put your hand up, or you can put a thumbs up, or you can say something if you want. Is there anybody that finds nutrition kind of rather confusing because of, let's just say, because of like what's considered proper nutrition? Anybody feel a little bit kind of confused by it? Yeah, me too. Me too. I think the more we know, the more confused we can get. Natalie feels the same way. It's so true. There is so much information. In this age of technology, we can Google anything, whether if you use Google or whatever search engine you use. I can Google anything. I had somebody ask me the other day, well, what are flax seeds anyways? Where do they come from? So I knew it was probably a plant. So just before class today, just it reminded me, I thought I should look that up. So I looked up where do flax seeds, I said, where do flax seeds come from? And there it was, it's a flowering plant. So we have so much information at our fingertips, but keep this in mind, especially around nutrition. Please use this tip. I might have learned it from Dr. Oz. Just because somebody states that something is fabulous or something's terrible, you've got to read the fine print. Who is writing about this? Is it somebody who's against something and so they're going to try to promote their own product? Be really, really careful of that when you're on the internet. Anything to do with nutrition, are they promoting their supplements and they're trying to get you to agree with what they're saying? I'm going to give you a simple example of this and how the food industry and the vitamin industry and the dairy industry and the, you fill in the blank industry and how they try to, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but if you can think of a softer word for manipulate, it probably is manipulation. But what do? For example, when, I've heard this before, when they wanted to really promote dairy products, that they were really good for us. Sorry, it's the opposite. It's the sugar industry. When they found a link between sugar and obesity. This was way back when, but the sugar industry didn't want to lose out. So they just started promoting, saying that it's not from the sugar, it's from fat. And then we had this huge big thing about, oh my gosh, don't eat fat. It's going to make you fat. Does fat make you fat? Well, what I'm learning from everything I'm learning to do with nutrition is that fat actually doesn't make you fat. Good, healthy fat gives you some optimal nutrition. And we're going to learn that soon. So you got to look at the fine print. Way back in the day, they didn't have to say who the study came from. Now they do. Before, they didn't have to say who they were. Well, now you see, oh, it's a sugar company that's doing the study. So keep that in mind when you're looking at things. But yes, things are very confusing. All right, so how does nutrition change as we age? The very first thing I want to talk about is when we're older adults, maybe our families have grown up and they've moved away. We live on our own, or we live with just a spouse or a partner or a sister or a mother. There's just two of you or there's one of you. Often as an older adult, we just lose that interest and we don't have the energy or the time. We have the time, but we don't have the energy maybe to prepare that healthy meal every single day, right? We have to eat usually every day. Sometimes we just don't feel like doing it. It's not like we don't want a balanced meal, but we just don't feel like making it, especially when we live on our own. Before I got married, which wasn't that long ago, we've been married 4 years only, and I'm older now. I was single and on my own through my 20s, my 30s, and most of my 40s. I was single. Well, I might have been dating, but I wasn't living with anybody. I lived by myself. Oh my gosh, there was times like Fridays, I just didn't feel like cooking. I was so sick of cooking. And so I tended to pick up the Thai food on the way home from work, or I would go see the movies on Fridays after work. And what would I eat? Sometimes the popcorn. And then I wouldn't be hungry till maybe 10 o'clock at night because I was staying up late. And then what do? Then you're in the kitchen doing all the things that we shouldn't be doing. So this one's an important one. Let's go to the next slide. So again, we talked about this. I put this because I thought this guy looked really confused. I like the picture. I don't know. It looks like he's holding a red pepper, which is more of a sweet pepper, and then a pepper, I think. Yeah. And Pat makes the comment here, and it's so true. always changes. But yeah, like it's true. Like who do you trust? You know who you trust? This is the fast version. I'm gonna tell you. Who do you trust? You trust yourself, because guess what? You know your body the best. We are all unique. So just because your neighbor is doing fabulous on the keto diet and losing pound after pound after pound, and you're just like, oh my God, I need to get some of that. Maybe it's because of their body chemistry and who they are. Sometimes there's similarities with things, and certain ways of eating is helpful for a lot of us, but not necessarily all of us. For example, I love eggs. If I had to cut eggs out of my diet, I would be at a loss, because I love eggs in the morning and lunchtime. I love hard-boiled eggs. I like deviled eggs. I like anything egg I like. Yes, but eggs can be inflammatory to some people. So it's one of those foods that causes inflammation in their bodies. And it's actually quite a common one. So thank you that it's not. I'm going to try not to overdo any kind of food. That's why we want variety as well. So we know it's confusing. That's why I'm here to help curate the information and bring it to you so that it's more in a simple form. Like explain it from an unbiased source, because there are a lot of biased sources out there on the internet. Another one of the things is there's a challenge if we say we have an illness or we have a disability, or right now, many of us are still isolating more so than we normally would be. So we might not have access to the nutritious food supply. For the most, I would say, even if you live in a small town, you probably have access maybe an hour away or 2 hours away to get to a Costco or like a larger chain that's going to carry most of the foods that you want, like fresh vegetables, that sort of thing. But I do know through the United States and through places like well, even here in Canada, we have some remote areas and they might not have access as much to fresh foods. My sister-in-law, she's living up north in BC, in my province, and they have one store. It's a general store. And she said, boy, to get a cauliflower, it's kind of, you don't get it. You can't just walk in and get a cauliflower every day. And it's around like $9. It's expensive because she lives in this really remote, she's a nurse and she's doing a remote thing. So keep that in mind, that it can be a challenge. All right. This is something I want to just be really clear to all of us, because let's face it, when we were younger, possibly, we were so all about, well, even when we had babies, oh, nutrition's so important. You got to give them the right nutrition. Okay, now they're school age. Oh, it's so important for them to build their bones and we were always so worried about then the school age. And then teenagers, well, you've got to give them enough nutrition. Otherwise, they're not going to get their brain working and all that stuff. So we're so worried about all these other areas of life. But guess what? As older adults, this is actually just as important. Because if you're 70 and you want to live a healthy life till 100, I don't mean just like live till 100. I mean live optimally to 100. We need to have good nutrition. So it's just as important. So don't put yourself on the back burner here. I do remember my mom telling me stories of my grandmother, and, you know, food was a little bit more scarce. They lived in Fiji. If anybody's heard of Fiji Islands. And my grandmother, she used to, they had a big family. I think there were 6 kids. And, you know, if there was somebody down the street, you know, who didn't have food, well, my grandmother used to just let anybody come and have dinner. Like she would just take that chicken, or a half chicken would be just spread between 10 people instead of 8 people, that kind of thing. And I still remember the stories. And even my mom and dad did this when we were younger too. They always made sure that us 3 kids got the good pieces, like the nutritious pieces, and maybe they ate sort of like the, you know, and maybe this sort of rings a bell in your families as well. But let's just remind ourselves that it's important for us as well. So I know with the food prices and stuff, sometimes I don't need that meat. I'm not going to buy it, because it maybe is way more expensive than when you remember when you used to buy, you know, that lean meat. So just keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. And then just about undernourished older adults, there are a lot of people that are undernourished in this world, even in North America and in our, countries where we're so much more in an advantage, and we're still undernourished. So if you're undernourished, you don't have the strength to fight off infections, viruses. Immune system, isn't that the most important right now, is that we all have strong immune systems. And when we're not eating properly every day, we start to have some brain fog. We start to have some cognitive issues as well, or we can, because our brain does need fuel. It's one of the main things. All right, let's keep moving along here. I want to talk, so I mentioned malnourished. I'm going to mention one more thing before we get right into the tea and toast. Okay, one thing about, sorry, excuse me, my nose is running this morning. Excuse me. Malnourished. We have a lot of obese people in North America. And I'm just saying North America because I believe most of us are from either America or Canada, North America. Do you know that there are a lot of obese people out there, and there's a lot of obese older adults out there because of lifestyle decisions, possibly environment, upbringing, stress, you name it, poverty. There could be lots of reasons for being larger than, say, you want to. And, you look at these people and you think, okay, they need to cut down on their food. But guess what? For the most part, people that are obese are malnourished. Their body is crying out for nutrients because likely they're feeding their bodies the wrong food. And I don't even want to call it food. But to be fair, let's just say, I call them foodstuffs, but let's just say we'll just call it food, but we can call it functional food and non-functional food. So functional food would be an apple. A non-functional food would be bag of chips. Do you get what I mean? The non-functional, it's not functioning. It's not doing anything for us. We're not adding selenium or we're not adding minerals and vitamins that our body needs to grow and stay strong. So functional, non-functional. That's something you'll hear about in functional nutrition, which is what I've studied. Okay, so I wanted to say that. So when you see a bigger person, they aren't necessarily just had twice as much lovely food. It means possibly, most likely, they are malnourished. Their body's crying out for nutrients. They might be overweight, but they are crying out. Tea and toast syndrome, what I have up on the board here, according to Wikipedia, this is a real thing. I thought it was sort of a fake name, and I thought, oh, that's not real. When I was in nursing years ago, 30 years ago, oh my gosh, I'm that old. I did nursing. I graduated from nursing school in 1989. So that's a long time ago. Tea and toast syndrome is real. And what it is that tendency, as when we live on our own, maybe we even live with a spouse, but we get tired. It's harder for us to do it. So again, we're eating that not such great supper, the dinner time. Maybe we had a pretty good lunch. So what do we revert to? Making toast, having a cup of tea, and then that suffices. I'm not that hungry. I don't have an appetite. This is a real thing, and this is what's causing a lot of malnourishment in our older population when they live on their own and they don't have the guidance or have the help or a daughter or son coming over and bringing in little packages of, meat or things like that, which I do for my father, because again, it comes down to prices and all that stuff. He has money. He's not like he economically doesn't have any money. It's that he's like, I'm not spending that amount of money for that thing anymore. Isn't that hilarious? My dad can afford to buy regular groceries. My mom passed away a few years back. He's comfortable enough, but will he buy it unless it's on sale? No, he'll buy the bread on sale. It might not even be the best bread, but he buys it because it's on sale, because it's wired. It's wired in his brain. And some of you are smiling because you probably either you do it yourself or a family member that does that. So this syndrome is so real. And one of the biggest things about tea and toast syndrome is that this person is lacking salt. That seems to be one of the hugest things, is their potassium and their salt, their minerals are out of whack because they're doing this toast thing, which my grandmother did, by the way. So Mom and I used to go and check up on my grandma, and we would ask, what did you, I mean, it's like, it's not very nice, but we would ask, like, what did you have for dinner last night? Often it was that. All right. So let's look at the actual factors for nutrition. So the first one, we've touched on this already, the social factors. So the number one reason that nutrition and, you know, the factors that affect our nutrition as we age is the social factors. So we talked about this one. And I see this picture, I see this lady, she looks like she's a little withdrawn. Does she feel like cooking? Nah, she doesn't. She might have even lost a loved one. That's when we really have to watch our loved ones, is when, if somebody has just passed away and they're now on their own, or they're missing this person, the emotion is so strong that they're not hungry and they don't feel like cooking. It's the last thing on their mind. When I was looking after my mom when she was sick, and my mom died of cancer, you've probably heard my story. I had no appetite. Like, I literally had zero appetite for those last 4 months of my mom's life. And I was, you know, being a nurse, and that I took time off of work, and I basically spent that time looking after her, even when she was in hospice for the last 12 days of her life. I had zero appetite. Like, I was drinking water. We need water. You need water more so than food. We can go many days without food. We cannot go many days without water. We can go seconds without air, right? Those are the things that are the most important. You can survive on water. Like, that's why people do water fasts and stuff like that, because our body has enough in it to, you know, use for energy, like our fat stores. I had zero appetite. So believe me, if somebody has lost a loved one, a neighbor, somebody down the street, somebody that you know, they might not have no appetite, and they may not be eating. And so you really want to watch their nutrition, including yourselves. So under social factors, this is the other thing. And this comes down to pride sometimes, and embarrassment, shame sometimes. Well, not shameful or pride that you're on a fixed income. I would say that many of us are on a fixed income. I am half on a fixed income because my income now is my pension. I get a small pension. My husband is still in the working world, so he has the ability or chance to maybe work a bit of overtime or bring in something else. But for a lot of us, we're on a fixed income. What does that mean? That means that the year that the weather was crappy, and now broccoli and cauliflower is way more expensive. Like, I was in the store the other day, and cauliflower was $5. I don't remember $5 for one head of cauliflower, but it could be the crop, the weather, whatever it was. They couldn't get workers in to do the fields. Whatever the reason is we see a fluctuation in the price of especially our fruits and vegetables. And sometimes these things are just slowly creeping up, and they're more and more expensive. But has your fixed income really changed? Not really, right? Like, sometimes it's this tiny, teeny, like $7 in a year for cost of living. Really? $7 is the difference in 1 year? So sometimes, honestly, we are having troubles buying the amount of the nutritious food that we would require for ourselves on our fixed income. Or maybe we're a little nervous, so we're going to put a little bit of our money away in case those times when we just don't have anything, or something, the hot water, you know, tank blows in the house, or, you know, if you live in a house, there's still some things that can just happen. So having troubles affording food is absolutely something that can happen. And what I want you to do is reach out to your loved ones. Don't be scared to tell your son or daughter that, you know what, you're finding it a little difficult. I remember way back when I was just affording my lifestyle. I was living on my own. I was in my 20s. I used to take the ferry to go over and see my mom and dad once every 2 weeks, because I had every second Monday off. My mom, she, you know, bless her heart, she used to just put that little $20 bill in my hand as I was leaving to help pay for the ferry ride, because she knew that I was earning money, but I was living right at my means, just like right at my means. And as a child, you know, young child or young adult, I guess I should say, my mom just knew. And so that extra few $20 bills that she gave me within the month actually helped me to stay above the line and feel like, oh, I feel that papaya looks amazing in the store. I want to buy it. I know it's expensive, but that would be a neat thing to have. So please, if you're struggling at all with being able to afford your food, this is something to ask help. There's lots of things like, food bank and other things out there, but you'd be surprised how supportive neighbors and loved ones and friends and family could be. And now I do it for my father now. I get the beautiful 100% beef sausages. He doesn't eat pork. I get the butcher to put the 2 in a pack, and I take 6 packs every time I go see my dad. I always usually take him really good quality meat because he just won't go and buy it anymore. All right. Second thing, I've changed the slide. I used to say no appetite, but it's not really no appetite. The second factor is the reduced appetite. Now, we've talked about some of the reasons, right? Some of the reasons, maybe we're just feeling sad, we've just lost somebody, we're just feeling, I will not use the word lazy because I feel when we're older, sometimes we have stiffness in the morning. We might have stiffness in our joints. We can't stand in the kitchen like we used to. Does anybody have that problem sometimes? Just standing in the kitchen can be hard. Yeah, I have a tip for you. And maybe you don't have it, but get those gel mats for your kitchen. You can get them at Costco. They're like filled with gel, and it's made a world of difference in my kitchen. I have one by my sink and one where I stand and chop. If you got to stand up to do certain things, and it's so comfortable on your feet. Because most of the time when we're in the house, we're in our socks or our slippers maybe. Sometimes people wear indoor shoes to help with their for standing. These gel mats, it's part of my tips on arthritis, which that class hopefully will come out soon. I actually just got approval for my arthritis class for everybody who's interested. It's going to come soon. That's one of my tips. Get these mats in the kitchen for standing on. All right. Okay, so I digressed a little bit. So reduced appetite. Did you know that as we age, we tend to lose some muscle mass? It doesn't sound great, does it? Right? Like I think after age 30 or something, we start to slowly lose our muscle mass. So what do we have to do about that? Well, we want to keep up our muscle mass, but the main point is when you lose muscle on your body, you will need less calories to survive. So technically, if we're losing muscle mass as we're aging, that means that we need fewer calories. Needing fewer calories means our body is not going to tell us that we're hungry as often as when we were 20 or 30. So this isn't us getting sick. This isn't us like something's wrong with me. So really keep that in mind. A reduced appetite as we age, it might not have hit you yet, okay? So you could be 50, 55, and you're like, oh, my appetite's still just as strong as it ever was. Maybe you're doing strength training and keeping up your muscles, your strength in your body. But if you started to lose some muscle mass, skin's hanging a little bit in spots, that's kind of natural as we age. We even lose it in our jaw, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So if you're losing muscle mass, your body needs less calories. You're not going to feel as hungry. So a reduced appetite is typical as we age. Maybe it doesn't hit you till you're 70, but keep in mind. And if you had a really, really strong appetite, which is a good thing to have, and maybe you were overeating a little bit because you used to have such a strong appetite, maybe having this tiny little shift is okay for you. But I want you to know that it's natural. So it's not like there's something wrong with you, okay? Why else could the reduced appetite happen? Well, as we get older, we start to produce a little bit less and less of the hormone that actually triggers our hunger. I think it's leptin. It probably is. I didn't put it on the slide because I didn't want to get too technical with you. But basically, the hormone that triggers that hunger feeling is less in our bodies. Now, there are lots of biohacks, like body hacks or biohacks, whatever they call them both, that you can do to not trick your body, but to keep that appetite strong. Well, one of them is strength training. Keep the muscles on your body. Your body's going to need the calories. It's going to tell you it's hungry. But this is one of the reasons, and you can see in the picture is showing medications, and I do talk about that for another slide. But yes, medications can change how we're feeling about eating. All right, this one is interesting. I had no idea about this. It kind of makes sense to me now. This one kind of makes sense to me because, well, it hasn't happened to me yet, but having a reduced sensitivity to smell and to taste. Did you know that? It's like naturally this happens as we age. It's not that you lose your sense of smell or taste, but it's the sensitivity to it. So I give the example, you come into the home and somebody, like you live with somebody's cooking. And when you first walk in, you smell nothing. You don't have that sensitive, like you can't smell it yet. You put your jacket down and you put your stuff, you get a little bit closer to the kitchen. You're like, oh my goodness, you're making my favorite lasagna. You can now smell it. Now, let's just back up. Ghrelin, thank you. Yes, that is it. Thanks, James. I couldn't remember if it's leptin or ghrelin. So ghrelin is the hormone that produces that, that feeling. So think back 20 years ago when you used to come into the home. As soon as you put the key in the door and you walked in, could you smell the lasagna cooking in the kitchen? Yeah. Like we had a keener sense back when we were younger. This doesn't mean that getting older is like all bad news. It's just if you have the awareness, it'll help. So maybe you don't have as strong a sense of smell or taste, but think about that. If you're not smelling the delicious food, the pie that's baking in the oven or whatever, we might not have the cues to make us feel hungry again, right? So think about that. And then again, with smell and taste, oh my goodness, can medications make a difference? Yes. Has anybody taken medication where you just feel like, yeah, you can't taste as well anymore? It numbs your flavors, food doesn't taste as good because of some medication you might be taking. Has anybody felt that or seen that with a medication they're taking? Sometimes medications can give you that metallic taste in your mouth. Unfortunately, there are some medications. This picture is just a general picture. It might be your heart disease medication. It could be your pain medication. But keep in mind, if you are taking medications, that there could be some that are affecting your sense of smell and taste, and then and also your appetite. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is an interesting one. Is everybody keeping up? Let me just stop actually for one sec here. Is everybody feeling keeping up with everything? You have enough time to write down your notes? Any questions? Yeah, Pat's good. Anybody? Any questions from anybody? Any comments? Has anybody here noticed that their appetite has changed? A little bit? No? Yeah? So as you guys know, you're getting to know me quite well. I didn't get married until we met when I was 48. So we got married. I was 51, I think, when we got married. I was 51, yes, and we got married. And my husband is a little bit younger than me. And he's a male, obviously, right? So he's male, not obviously, but he is male and I'm female. We don't have kids. So we would cook, we would plate the food, the fancy word of putting the food on the plate, plating our food. And then we would go and sit down and eat. I would look at Dan's plate and I would look at my plate, and they were exactly the same. And I used to keep up. I used to eat exactly what he was eating. But I'm realizing this from, all the nutrition I know and from teaching older adults and realizing that some things do change. First of all, I'm female versus male. There are some differences. I'm not being sexist, but there are some differences. And age will make a difference. So now, 4 years later, guess what? When we plate the food, my plate is about 2/3 the size of his plate. Because I realized that my appetite has shifted. It has shifted. So I don't need to start with the same amount of food as him. And often 2/3 and a full plate, we'll take a break and he will usually go back for seconds. I don't go back for seconds anymore. So things have shifted. So now that I'm a little bit more aware of it, I see that things have shifted. So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, the 4th factor, gastrointestinal issues. So as we age, our intestines tend to have less efficiency at absorbing our nutrients. Also, our digestion does kind of slow down, so it takes our stomach longer to empty. Now, that might not be a bad thing because, you know, they say try and eat your meal. You want to extend it for 20 minutes when you eat your meal. Do you know why 20 minutes? Anybody? 20 minutes, because that's the amount of time that it takes from your stomach to go to your brain to tell you, I'm full. This is enough food. So when we eat fast, we might end up eating even more than we actually really need because it takes that. It's the message doesn't get to the brain fast enough. So that's why if you eat your food a little bit slower, it gives your chest a true guide of, am I full or am I not full? That's why it's nice. They say, just wait 10 minutes and see how you're feeling. Do you still feel like that second helping? But with us, as we're aging, our digestion does slow down, which can cause some little issues. Our intestines aren't as good as absorbing. And again, remember I was talking about muscle mass. Remember we talked about muscle mass tends to sort of naturally reduce as we get older, even up in here. And it can affect our chewing, can affect our swallowing, chewing. So now that we're aware of this, I think it can make a difference. Also, as we age, we might have some dental issues. Have any of us ever suffered from some kind of dental issue and now you're only chewing on this side because this side hurts and you haven't had a chance to get to the dentist yet? So now you're only eating on one side of your mouth. That's going to interfere on the amount of food and stuff that you're getting into your body. And if we're not chewing our food, we're not, like, remember, digestion starts in here, right? Your dentist or, I don't know, any health professional will say digestion starts in your mouth. So you want to chew your food, get the enzymes going to help you so you don't end up with GERD, you know, reflux, that kind of thing. Okay, so those are the 4 factors. Let's just do a tiny lesson on nutrition. There are 6 nutrients, 6 things that we need to survive. The first 3 are what we call macronutrients. Very simple to remember because I'm pretty sure most of us have heard of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Those are the 3 macronutrients that are vital for survival. Carbohydrate rich, protein rich, and the healthy. I put healthy fats because we don't need trans fats. We don't need the really bad oxidized fats. Like, we don't need those things, but we do need healthy fats. We do need healthy cholesterol in our body to survive. All right, so those are the macronutrients. The next one are the micronutrients. Now, this one's pretty easy to remember too. We have our vitamins and we have our minerals. And they are micro because of small amounts. We don't need this much vitamin D. We need a good source of vitamin D. We need, you know, in comparison to the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, the minerals are quite micro, quite small. Although we still lack them, certain ones, if we're not keeping track of what we're doing. And I added this to the slide because I realized that whether I'm talking about brain health, whether I'm going to talk about eye health, with that class is coming up soon, possibly, or I'm talking about just health in general, the number 1 thing we need is air, oxygen to breathe, but the number 2 is water. So that is an essential component of nutrition, is getting a good amount of water, because we are about 75% water. Our bodies are 75% water. All right, so 6 things: macronutrients, carbs, protein, fat; micronutrients, vitamins, minerals; and the star, water. Okay. So I'm going to talk about 3 nutrients that I think are underserved. Like, we just don't think about them unless you've been taking my classes, because I kind of harp on this one probably a lot. You guys probably know more about omega-3 fatty acids if you've been taking my classes than you ever thought you would ever know, because I talk about it all the time. Omega-3 fatty acids falls into the I mean, it's the fat, right? It's the fatty acid that is essential for health, essential for our systems to actually service, like for our bodies to be able to create and do what we're doing, to move and sleep and eat and all that kind of stuff. We need essential fatty acids, the omega-3s. We're always typically low in our omega-3s. There are omega-6s and there are omega-9s. I learned that in nutrition. We do need those in a proper ratio, but guess what? Omega-6s, I don't talk about. Why? Because most of us get more than we need, triple, quadruple, because it's in plant oils. And guess what most things are made of is plant oils. Like the cheaper oils we get from processed foods, packaged foods. If you read the thing, it's, not that canola oil or safflower oil, these things are bad. It's just that we get it in such surplus that our body's out of ratio. So we got our 6s and our 9s. I can't remember exactly what the 9s are, but they're all fatty acids. We get a plethora of them, but the omega-3s, we don't, unless you're like a fisherman and you love eating fish and you're eating fish all the time, the oily fish. So the thing about omega-3s, number one, we can't manufacture it in our bodies. Like we can manufacture vitamin D, we could manufacture some other things, but we cannot manufacture this. We have to take it in. What if you hate fish? What if you're a vegetarian? What if you're vegan? You don't eat fish. Like there are some vegetarians, they're called pescatarians, they eat fish. But what if you don't, if it's not part of your diet? Maybe you grew up like my husband in cattle country in Alberta, and he never ate a fish before he met me, I don't think. They just didn't make it. His mom doesn't like fish. They just didn't eat it. They didn't grow up with it. Now in my family comes from an island in Fiji. My dad used to take us down to the local fisherman's wharf on the weekends to get a bucket of herring. I mean, maybe that's a cultural thing, but we'd go and get the fresh fish and bring it home in the bucket, and we would eat quite a bit of fish. Sardines, herring. Herring was kind of big when I was young. All right, so it's the oily fishes, sardines, tuna, mackerel, salmon. There's also, I don't have herring up on the screen. So salmon. If you're not a big fish person and you live in a place where you wouldn't know which fish to purchase at the fish market, and I'm kind of shy too. And when you have to stand there and you have to like point. Have you been to the fish markets? You gotta look. You gotta have some confidence, right? Have you been, like, you've seen it on TV and stuff? You got to shout out and say you want that one, this one versus that one. I wouldn't know which one was better. I wouldn't have a clue, and I'd be too shy to do the whole fish shouting and picking what I want, the fresh fish for my restaurant or for home. So if you're like me and you're not comfortable with buying fish, get your canned salmon. We got canned sardines and canned salmon, two oily fish that can give you the omega-3s. Now, what if you just don't like fish, or what if you're a vegan and that's not part of your diet? Well, guess what? Flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, they all have this beautiful omega-3s in them. What else? Walnuts, like nuts and seeds, usually have some form of omega-3 in them. So if you decide, like, Ravina, I don't like fish, and I don't know what these little seeds are, it doesn't appeal to me. Okay, fine. Get some fresh walnuts, have that in your fridge, keep it in the fridge, because nuts can go rancid easily. So I wouldn't put them in the freezer per se, but in the fridge is okay. Buy just enough for, a few weeks or for a month. And when you're hungry or you're feeling like something, just go grab your little, this is what I use. I'll show you. They're just this little tiny little dishes. They're not very big. I have I had my blueberries in one, and I had my half cut up apple in this. So I use these little tiny little dishes. My husband knows, because when you do this, you don't need to eat this many walnuts at a time. So if you use a little dish, which I happen to have here to show you, you take out 6 walnuts, put it in your little dish, and maybe you're working or you're reading or something, and you can slowly munch on that. And walnuts have lots of great omega-3s in them. All right, you feeling good about the omega-3s? Yeah. Okay. What's the second food that I have brought in here? Oh, wait, let me just see. Is there a question here? Oh, is there catfish? You know what? I'm going to look into that. I will look into that. I don't really have catfish here in where I live, but I'm going to look in to see if it has, if catfish is an oily fish. I'll have to look it up. Or maybe James. Oh, James is looking it up. Okay, let's see. What did he say? It's low in calories, packed with lean protein. Okay, good. So if you've got catfish where you are, Myrna, I haven't tried catfish. What does it taste like? Is it like
delicious?
Is it a white fish? I feel stupid.
It's a white fish, and it's a mild flavor, but it's very good. So I'm happy to know that there's some nutritional value in it.
Oh, good. Where do you live, Myrna? Are you somewhere where you can get it fresh?
I'm in Illinois. I don't really get it fresh here. When I go to Louisiana, I get it fresh.
Okay, excellent. Love it. Okay, well, now we know catfish. I mean, I love cats. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with the catfish, but I'll try it. I'll see if I can find it in our grocery store here.
Give it a try.
Yeah. Okay, I will. Thanks, James. James he's a great support, isn't he? He's looking up stuff for us. He's putting it in the chat. I love it. That's what I love. Pat, you have a question?
I just had a question regarding vitamin supplements of omegas. Do you have to worry about, the toxins of the capsules or any I try to get good vitamins, but do you have to worry about that?
Absolutely. I'll say this about vitamins since somebody's brought it up. Usually in this class, somebody will bring up supplements. I studied nutrition. I've studied nursing. I did the functional nutrition. What I learned in nutrition school, supplements are like, doctors. There's some great doctors. There's some good doctors. There's some not so great doctors. We might have the same with our pharmacists. We might have the same with teachers, right? We have these really great teachers, and we got these teachers that just kind of like get by, possibly. But for the most part, teachers are really amazing. Supplements are the same thing. Read your ingredients. Don't be shy to talk to the nutrition, the person that owns the nutrition store. Ask them, which vitamins do you recommend? Which vitamins do you take? There are vitamins that have a lot of filler. The filler is not going to kill you, but the filler is like stuff maybe our body doesn't need. So
I understand that, but one of my doctors, she recommend, I take all kinds of vitamins, D, B, omegas, and probably 9 or 10 pills a day. And she said, just take one good multivitamin versus all the little ones because of the fillers or whatever, even though I try to get really good vitamins.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for brands?
Okay, so what I'll say about supplements, especially for omega-3, since we're talking about omega-3s. Omega-3s is something that a lot of us are lacking because, we don't have a fisherman in the family. We're not getting fresh fish delivered to our house. We just don't eat enough of the oily fish. And maybe we forget, maybe we're on a kick and we eat chia seeds for a month and then we forget about the chia seed pudding and we're just not getting it. And we can't manufacture it. So a lot of times a doctor will recommend a good fish supplement or fish oil or omega-3 from plants supplement. So I think it's not a bad thing to supplement with if you're not getting it in your diet. But here's how I was described it in nutrition. Instead of getting one note, like you get the flax, you get the fish oil, maybe your omega-3 supplement is from sardines. It'll tell you where it comes from. Krill oil, let's say, sometimes. You're getting 1 or 2 notes. You're not getting the full symphony. If you eat the fish, the catfish or the salmon, you're getting the full symphony. It's like taking vitamins. You take vitamins because you need it, but you're taking them as little individual things. You can actually put yourself out of balance if you're taking, say, I need vitamin B12 and you just take B12. You forget the other Bs. That's why the more you can get it in your food, the more you're getting the full symphony, if that explains it to you, Pat. I do believe in supplements. If you're low, like I'm low in D, where's my vitamin D bottle? I have it somewhere. I take vitamin D every day because I know I'm low in vitamin D. I've had my blood tested. I actually do a little Tetra Pak of my vitamins. Those are my vitamins right there. I've got like anti-aging stuff. This is the oils, and then the other 3 pills are my vitamins. So a good multivitamin, sure, you may not get the amount of something that you need. So maybe you're low on zinc. So maybe you need to supplement with that. But I'm all a believer of we can get it in our food. We just have to have variety in our food. Sometimes we eat the same 15 foods and that's all we eat. If you bring variety into your food and you get things at peak and you go to the local markets and get food when it's at its freshest and it hasn't traveled 2,000 miles to get to your house, I feel like we can get a lot of it from our food. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one is calcium. Calcium is something we kind of haven't heard about in a while because I think the commercials on, drink milk, get your calcium are kind of gone. Those commercials. It used to be big when I was a kid. You see the beautiful smiling cow, and then you would see the milk, and you'd say, okay, you need milk to get calcium. I am not against dairy products. Let me just state that right now. So if anybody's from the Dairy Farmers Association, I am not against dairy products, but I will say this from a nutritional point of view. Dairy can be very inflammatory in our bodies. I cut out, and I'm like 55 right now. I've had knee problems for a long time. So the story has a purpose. I've had knee problems, maybe a bit of arthritis. I had an accident with one of my knees, but both of my knees are kind of weak and they're always seeming to be inflamed. If I do any kind of exercise, my knee swells up. For years, like since, I don't know, I can remember 15 years, it's been like that. I'm doing some special cleansing and trying different ways of eating because I'm creating courses and stuff for it. I stopped eating dairy products and grains, all grains and dairy for 5 weeks now. 0 knee pain, no knee pain. My inflammation's gone. And okay, to be fair, I cut out all grains, including gluten, and I cut out dairy at the same time because I just thought I want to just feel better. I'm feeling better. My bloatiness is out of my face. My stomach bloatiness is gone because of the no dairy. Now, back in the ancient times, nobody drank from the cow. Nobody drank milk except from human milk when you were born. So where did they get calcium from? They needed to get calcium from somewhere. Guess where they got it from? Check out the picture. Dark green leafy vegetables. That is actually the very best source of our calcium, is the dark green vegetables. So these days, can't we get amazing kale in like beautiful, like triple washed like boxes that is already triple washed? Or we can grow kale quite easily. It's actually one of the crops that's really easy to grow. Has anybody tried growing kale at home? Easy, quite easy. Yes, yogurt is considered dairy. So I did cut out all my dairy just to see, and my inflammation in my body, I should have gotten the blood test done, but my inflammation has just gone down to like almost nothing. Like to see my knee, I can see my knee, the bony parts of my knee now, and I couldn't before. Even on a regular day when I woke up in the morning, I couldn't see that because my knee was still had underlying low-grade inflammation. So green leafy vegetables. So James I'm gonna ask for James always for my support person. Isn't he good? He's so good. So has anybody eaten okra? That's sort of an Indian thing. Yeah. Michael, have you had it in soup? Is that how you've had your okra? I'd like to know.
I've had it fried. I've had it in soups or stews.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
I love okra. It's one of my favorites. My mom, she would make it for me. In Indian culture, we take the okra and we cut it into little rings and you fry it. And I used to like it fried till it was almost black, like some like burnt bits because it's so crispy. And for people that don't like texture, it's got kind of a little bit of a gooey texture, but that's good to know. So there we go. That's calcium. So I'm not saying you can't get calcium from dairy products. Yes, if you eat yogurt and cheese and things, you can get calcium. But our body loves the calcium from the dark green leafy vegetables because it's more accessible. All right. The last one before we end the class, fiber. Have we forgotten about how much fiber we actually need? Are we taking Metamucil? Are we taking the psyllium husks? You know, there's different medications we take if we're feeling a little bit, you know, backed up, constipated. I'll say the word. When we get older, I already talked about it, our digestive system can slow down. Not, you know, like to a stall, but it can slow down. So we want to have foods rich in fiber. I think we need about average like 30 grams of fiber. Do you know sometimes you go throughout a day, you had your glutinous bread, I call it glutinous bread, but you had your regular wheat bread, you had cereal, maybe you had a sandwich for lunch, and then at dinner time, you know, you didn't have those two really colorful, beautiful, fibrous vegetables on your plate because it was just the day to eat just lasagna. And I love lasagna, by the way. I'm not putting down lasagna. I put spinach in mine, actually. So our whole day goes by and you had maybe 5 grams of fiber. No wonder your system's a bit slow or slowing down, or pooping's not as grand as you like it to be kind of graphic. But even chia seeds, if you had chia seeds, and if you put chia seeds, this is too much water, but if you put a teaspoon or a tablespoon of chia seeds in a bit of water, they'll plump up, and you can make puddings with chia seeds. You can add, you know, chocolate, cocoa to it, and you can add it to your smoothies. Chia seeds plump up. Chia seeds are an amazing thing to add fiber into your diet. So I don't want you to forget about fiber. And whole grains. I've got see how I got it last? Whole grain cereal, whole grain bread, and brown rice I put later. It's more the nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables where I want you to get your fiber from. All right, so we've done our 6 things that are important: the nutrients, the 3 macros, the 2 micros, the water, the 3 things. What are they again? The omega-3s, the calcium, and fiber. And we've talked about what changes as we age when it comes to nutrition. So that's our summary. And
Question.
yes.
Would you comment about the nutritional value, if any? I've read about where they flush the GI tract, different, you know, they have various advertisements about the benefit of doing these flushes. Could you comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, I have actually tried it myself. So you're talking about colon cleanses. You're talking about the colon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of gross. Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm sorry if anybody actually does this for a living, but what Michael's talking about is you can go to these places where they'll do a colon cleanse. And when I mean that, like this is going to be graphic for any of you that don't, just put me on mute if you can. They basically stick a tube up the back end, not like horribly, but they just slide this little tube in slowly. And what they do is they flush in the salty water into your system. And it feels kind of weird because I've had it done twice. And it feels that you're like, oh, something's filling up. You almost feel like you got to poop, right? Because it starts to feel like you need to go. And they basically put the solution in to get to your colon to kind of like help give it a bit of a clean. And then they do a flush and then it all comes out. And if you're in one of these places, you can see the tube, you can actually see the stuff coming out. Okay, that's probably graphic enough for you. But basically he's asking, are these things helpful? Some people get these things done, but you know what? Just eat your chia seeds every day. Honestly, to clean the pipes, you just need to eat an apple a day, if you learned that from my healing class, and have some chia seeds. Increase your fiber to 30 to 50 grams. You don't do fiber 50 grams all in one day. Please do not do that. Gradually increase your fiber, this beautiful fiber. Do you know that broccoli has like the most amazing, beautiful fiber in it? You know, when you eat the stem of a nicely steamed broccoli, that's the kind of beautiful fiber that will help to clean your pipes. I call it our pipes. So I'm not against it, definitely not against them, but they're kind of unnecessary if you just change the way you're eating. All right. How much chia seeds? Well, I actually, when my husband and I make our smoothie, I take a whole tablespoon of chia seeds between the two of us. So a teaspoon. When you make a pudding, you could probably use a couple teaspoons. I even sometimes put my chia seeds in a little bit of water, leave it in the fridge, and then I use that gel in my smoothie because I drink my smoothie down pretty quick. So so there you go. The last few slides, because I'm supposed to make sure I share these slides with you. This one is about the class notes. I'm going to send you out a little post email. You can do feedback. If you love the class, go ahead and give it however many stars you would like. And we have a little button now. You can actually invite your friends. So when you sign up for a class and you've met some people in the class, you go, oh, I think Myrna's going to like this class. So Margaret's signing up. She can go click. I don't know how you, well, or whoever email you have, you can send a friend a notification that, hey, I'm in this class. Come and join me. That's new. And then again, if you have suggestions for classes, anything to do with health and wellness, let me know. Like, you know, let me know in the class that you really want a class on that, and I will consider creating it. So right now, I just finished arthritis. I'm doing a class on optimal eye health because I think we sometimes forget about our eyes, and we need our eyes. You know, look in the classroom, how many people are wearing glasses right now? Like, our eyes are important. What changes as we age with our eyes? So that's the one I'm working on right now. I think that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We went over by a couple minutes. I am going to let you go unless you have a question so that you can make it to your next class, including James, who probably has another class to support. Does anybody have anything they want to ask? Are we all feeling pretty good? Yeah? Okay. Thank you for being here. I loved all the enthusiasm. I loved all the smiles. I like to see your smiling faces. Happy Friday to you. Have a wonderful weekend, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I am teaching something tomorrow. I'm teaching optimal brain health tomorrow at 9:30 Pacific time. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Ingrid. Bye,
Bye.
Myrna. Michael,
Bye.
Elizabeth.